definition of love where it's more about it's more about you have like a strong like what's a good word for I think Webster a strong like
strong positive feeling towards it.
Yeah, and it says so that one of the definitions in the Webster dictionary is a warm attachment, enthusiasm, or devotion. And to me, that's exactly that's the definition I'm talking about. I have a warm attachment, enthusiasm, and devotion to my fans. And I think that's something that when I say if someone wants me to say I love you to them because they want to hear that they're cared about and that makes them feel better for whatever reason, even if that's crazy, it costs me nothing to say, hey, I love you. And I mean it, and I do mean it when I say that. And I think it's not me being manipulative by saying that, or at least that's how I feel. I don't feel like I'm being manipulative. I feel like I'm genuinely sharing how I feel. But I do see how in some cases, obviously, when you're bringing up past situations with creators that have abused that trust, obviously they shouldn't be creators and having that, but that shouldn't spoil it for everyone else. Like
that's of course not. That's my concern is mainly just with the people that will follow your lead with that. Mainly, like I said, my problem isn't really with you here. My problem is more with the fact that people will follow your lead with that, and this goes back to even like the caring about your audience thing, right? For me, like I care about my audience, and the way that I did that is I kind of always advise them to be cautious around people just because of the experiences I've had, and maybe this is also coming from me here, where I feel like I've probably just had a lot of bad experiences with being in proximity to people that were doing fucked up shit.
And that'll change your point of view for sure.
Yeah.
No matter what, like,
and
obviously trauma or anything will do that.
I wanted to hit on the fact that, like, to me, like, part of like the caring about your fan base thing is that, like, the advising caution and like that sort of thing, and even with sure. I want to bring it even back to like identity, right? Where like. I don't even mean to bring this up right now, but I did see it on stream. Like, you saw like the fucking chair thing, right?
Yeah,
like no, that kind of stuff.
I've seen stuff like that. I've seen plenty of stuff like that before.
To me, like, I feel like part of like the care for your audience would even like go to like basically pointing that shit out and being like, "This shit's fucking weird, man." You know what I mean? Or like
I think that might be where some of the disagreement is, because like with me, and I think I take a very like to everything. I take a very analytical approach. Like, and I know you're mentioning like the numbers and all the thing. I think that's because that's how I think. I think my mind is very analytical. I think about the numbers, and that's what you're making fun of that, but it's true. I do. I think about when it comes to everything. I think about the numbers, right? And so when I think about this, like if you could say, and you've gone looking for it, total, how many do you think you've seen of? You can include sexual fan arts of people other than me, George, and Sapnap. Horrible art of, whatever, gross, disgusting stuff. What total number of like posts? What do you think that you've seen?
Probably? That I've seen, honestly, probably like 35 in the past day, and I didn't look for it that hard.
I know you were scrolling through average MC whatever. That his Twitter, which goes back for weeks and weeks. But yeah, like I think I've seen. Yeah, I'd maybe put it at like what I've seen from looking for it when I've looked for it in order to see what people are talking about. Like maybe I'd put it at like 100 total. Now let's triple that, or no, let's times 10 that. Let's say it's 1,000, right? There are probably 1 million tweets a day. Maybe there's less, maybe there's more. It could be I wouldn't be surprised if there's like 5 million tweets a day about the Dream Team, about the Dream SMP, about me, about George, about Sapnap, about all the creators in the Dream SMP. Probably 10 million, and that's like such a ridiculously small percentage that to me it's not even worth acknowledging. Like by acknowledging it, you make that percentage go up. Because people that are similar people will go and seek out that community and find it and go, oh, this is the weird community where they sexualize Tommy, or you know what I mean? And then they'll go and seek that out and find their people, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like they say like something like 1% of like men in the world are pedophiles, like 1%, and that's like a ridiculously high number. And they say it could be higher, and they say
there's a high number.
That is a ridiculous. That's 1 in every 100. 1 in every 100. And we're talking about here like 1 in every, like, I don't even know, like literally it's like 1 in a million. Like it's maybe not, but maybe it's a little less if we're talking about genuine people and not just posts. Then it probably brings that number down. But we're talking about such a small number that like 1 in 25,000 people are murderers. Like, and it's actually more than in the world. That's in the United States. And so we're talking about such a small number that to me, it's not even worth acknowledging, because I just know that by acknowledging it, especially on any of my, like, there's nowhere I can post about it or where it wouldn't get like literally millions and millions, like it'd be reposted on YouTube, posted on TikTok, posted on Twitter, posted everywhere, and 10 million people might see it. And then now, like I mentioned, the weird people that are in, you know, in that 10 million, which there will be some, are going to see it and find that community and join it and make it bigger and bigger. Like, I don't like that community. I think that community is gross. I think that community needs to stop doing what they're doing. But the thing is, by me going out and saying that, it makes it worse. And because, you know, if you tell a weird person, tell a murderer, hey, stop murdering, you know, it's like they're not going to go and stop murdering.
Yeah,
They're going to be like, oh yeah, I know. Like, it's not like they don't know murder is bad. Like, I thought killing people were good. Like, no, they obviously know that drawing mutilation porn is bad. Like, they know that. Like, they're not going to hear me say, hey, I find that gross, and then go like, nice. Let me just stop. I didn't realize he found it gross. Like, obviously not. That's kind of how I feel. So a lot of people like slam me for not replying. I'm like, dude, if like. And I'll relate it to another situation. Like, sometimes when during certain stuff happens, like somebody tweets something negative, let's just say about like my fan base or something, right? And then they're getting hate for, you know, by stans or by anybody. And then they DM me and they say like, hey, can you please tell your fan base to stop hating on me? And let's say they're getting, you know, they got like 30 messages or something. And like, I can't. If I say something, it will make it worse. It just will. No matter, if I literally tweet out, "Hey, please don't send hate to this guy," all of a sudden he's gonna get like thousands of like from haters and stans and fans alike. He's gonna get like 10 times the messages he was getting. And so I've learned generally the best way to, you know, minimize stuff like this is to just ignore it. And obviously people have a right to go look it up if they want and to say, hey, this is fucking weird. Like, they can do that if they really want to do that. But at the same time, I think the reason it's even different than murder is that the only person they're hurting is themselves. That's the only person they're hurting. Like, you're not going to find it unless you go looking for it. Like 99% of the time, maybe 1% of the time you'll find it, and it's usually from people sharing it who didn't want to find it and going, "This is gross," and that's when you'll see it. Like the stan community and the fan community and like my fans and everything shun it. They report it, they mass report it, and usually get accounts taken down. And so my general viewpoint is just like, yes, they're probably sick and they need help. But I can't get them that help. If I could, then I would. But me talking about it isn't gonna get them that help. It's just gonna make it worse for them and for everybody. And that's generally why I try and avoid talking about it. But
I certainly think that's a healthy way to view it. I mean, that's kind of why I was tearing into you calling you a pussy that one time. Was I was just like, dude, fucking stand up to these people and be like, just fucking think for yourself. Stop being fucking weird. But it makes total sense that you would approach it that way.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's why a lot of things, like, I think very analytically, and so to me it's all about the numbers, and those numbers to me, they're not significant. Like, they're just genuinely not. Like, yeah, there's weird people. I know that. There's weird people everywhere. There's weird people. I get it. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my attention. It's not worth anybody's attention, really. Other than people that if they want to seek it out and say, hey, this is weird, go for it, sure. But
no, that makes total sense to me. It really does. And hold on. Sorry, I just inhaled my gamer subs.
But I do think that is something, and again, I don't want to say I'm trying to say big creator, small creator, whatever, but I think genuinely that is a difference between being a really big creator and a smaller creator. Because if I was a super small creator, that's something that back in the day I would have totally probably tweeted something about, because the impact is different. Like I said, now about 10 million people seeing it. Maybe with a small creator, it might be 1,000 people seeing it, and what's the chances that, you know, one of those are weird? Like, no, it's more likely that it'll make people aware that's weird, whatever. So it does vary based on, like, it's kind of the thing about having a big platform and having to know how to use it, and be responsible with it and know when not to say stuff, which I struggle with sometimes. But
that's a perfect segue right there. Is I wanted to ask you about, this might just be a concern of my own, but what do you think of the way that things are going right now, with things online seeming to become more and more kind of collective? You know what I mean?
I think that it's interesting, because I think that it isn't necessarily becoming more and more collective, but I think that, like, Twitter, as an example, which is a platform that is becoming more and more collective. But I think that that's been happening for the last, like, 10, 15 years. And I think the reason it is because it's becoming easier to find people who share your opinion. So shitty opinions can get, 10,000 retweets because there's 10,000 people that will see it that like that opinion. Even if it's like you should smear shit on your walls, like 10,000 retweets, like whatever. Like that can happen on Twitter because of how simple it is. You retweet it and then all your followers see it. You follow people with similar viewpoints, and then so on and so forth. And it's a cycle that ends with these accounts that have 10,000 followers that have all these shitty takes that, get tons of likes. Just because of the fact that they only follow people who agree with them. I think that's unhealthy. I think that shouldn't be the case. But I don't think that applies as much to stan culture as most people think it does. I think that stan culture is different. Like having stands like like a group of stands, especially Minecraft YouTuber stands, is definitely a collective group. But I don't think that's a bad thing for a collective group. It's just like saying, oh, Oklahoma Sooner fans are a collective group. Like, yeah, because they love they all support and love their team, and they're gonna maybe they shit talk other teams or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that in sports and stuff. And that's why I like to use analogies that relate to me. But that I think it's similar where I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter as much as people make it out to be within stan culture. But I think on Twitter in general, yeah, I see that all the time, and I've literally tweeted out complaining about that in the past and recently, being like, yeah, Twitter's the worst platform for conversation. Twitter's not. I mean, you have however many words in a tweet, however many characters in a tweet, not even enough to write like a paragraph. Like it's not an open forum. It's not Reddit. Twitter is just like, I don't know. Twitter is like basically that. It's like you agree with people, and it's just more of a collective opinion. And I think because more and more people from around the world are just joining, it's getting bigger and bigger. Then obviously there's gonna be more people that hold a certain opinion than others. And so that's kind of how what Twitter is. But
yeah, do you think that there's a sort of like, because this is the way that I've always seen it, and like again, this probably just comes from my experience with like the whole SMP Live thing, because I was there for about 30 seconds before I went running in the exact opposite direction because I noticed this sort of stuff. But my main concern has always been with that kind of culture that, don't you think that there's a kind of like inherent vulnerability to that kind of like almost like tunnel vision positive, I honestly I call it malignant positivity, right? Where like these sort of insular cultures that emerge, like even around a creator or even around a band, which is the main thing that I usually link it to, is how like the way that these groups kind of blow up on YouTube and like people coalesce around them, it honestly reminds me of boy bands a lot, right?
Huh.
And don't you think that there's a sort of like inherent vulnerability to people having that sort of positive tunnel vision kind of mindset? Not even necessarily saying that people shouldn't have a positive mindset with that, but there's almost like this, what I've noticed is you get a bunch of, especially like you get young people together like this, right? And there's this intense social pressure to not say anything negative or critical. And that is kind of like my main concern with stan culture is, and I think this is what we've been hitting on this entire time.
It's like a safe space is what you're saying. It's like a safe space. Like,
yeah, but it's a safe space from things that are not even normally protected by that. I mean, like it's not even safe necessarily, but it's almost just a place where you can't say anything negative to the point where it makes, when bad things happen, there's a lot of social pressure for those things not to come out. Like I even want to talk about like the Carson thing, right? Where like one of the victims literally messaged me and she was like, the whole reason that I couldn't come out with this is because I know that there's like this entire culture of positivity around this, where like to even say something, to even suggest something like that would inherently put me in a place where people would not believe me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that's a problem. I mean, that's obviously just a problem in life. Like it's the same thing happens with like football player. I keep going back to football, but
I mean, it's a decent analogy.
This is more like sensitive, but like what happens with football players and like rape, like a lot of like jocks or whatever that are the quarterback or whatever. And it's happened even recently where there's people that come out and say, yeah, I was afraid to come out because he's the star quarterback. Everyone in the town would hate me because, everyone in the town would hate me. That's not even social media. Like everyone in the town would hate me because he was going to lead us to the championship, and now he's arrested, or now he's going through all this drama. And I think that that's just like a natural human thing where you don't want, like, you want to view things in a positive light. Like that's generally, I think, the natural human thing is just viewing things in a positive light, and having positivity. And then you don't like to hear when things go negative. And I think that's something that it's hard, and I don't know how I don't know what we can do, what anybody could do really to fix that. I think there needs to be more ways, especially for stuff like that. There needs to be more ways more outlets for victims to come forward, more outlets for people that have things that they feel like they can't express because of that. There needs to be more outlets for that. But I don't know what the solution is.
To me, even the fact that you're, even like what you did with Kavos, something like that. But the fact that you're willing to even have this dialogue is such a positive sign to me, regardless, as it seems like you are certainly, as of late. I mean, even like I think that probably the whole John Swan thing lately, it seems like you are opening the door a little bit more to not even like